A lower court judge on Friday night ruled against you with respect to Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia, who is somebody who was living in Maryland. He was under an order not to be deported because of fears or danger that he may face back in El Salvador. The government has admitted there was an error in deporting him, but this judge has said you've got a deadline midnight Monday to get him back from El Salvador.
Well, not anymore, because the Supreme Court has just weighed in and they are helping the Trump administration by temporarily pausing the court-imposed midnight deadline to return Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man, by the way, mistakenly deported to El Salvador, back to the United States. In fact, there's a huge breaking story as we speak, because the Supreme Court has also weighed in on whether or not the Trump administration can use, the Alien Enemies Act, which is a wartime law to deport alleged gang members. Venezuelan gang members specifically were at the heart of this case, and the Supreme Court on Monday, meaning today, removed this temporary block on the Trump administration's use of a controversial wartime authority to deport alleged members of the Venezuelan gang, ruling against the immigrants, essentially, who were challenging this action by the Trump administration. They write in their decision that the detainees are confined, in Texas. So venue is improper in the District of Columbia. The justices wrote of the challenge in the US District Court in DC. As a result, the government is likely to succeed on the merits of this action. So the 5-4 ruling, of course, the liberal justices ruled against the Trump administration. The conservative justices did not touch on the underlying legal questions of the challenge, according to the Washington Post. It leaves open the possibility the migrants could refile their case in Texas or other jurisdictions where they are detained. But I want to get back to Abrego Garcia in just a moment, but Cenk, first you jump in.
Yeah, so look, it might be a fig leaf because it's just a jurisdictional issue. Where they hold the case is relevant because it depends. You'll get a different judge and a more conservative judge in Texas, but at the end of the day, it's going to go to the Supreme Court. So this could be a small victory that they hand Trump, especially if they're planning to rule against them later on the substance of the case. But now I'm speculating. I have no idea which way they're gonna rule on the substance of the case. But one thing I do know is that the courts are the most important part of this entire equation. If the courts don't hold, we're all screwed and there is no remedy, okay? The courts have to actually follow the law and the Constitution. They don't have to rule against Trump. They just have to rule against him or anyone else if he violates the Constitution or the laws. And he has to follow court orders. That's the most important thing. In a sense here, they bought time on the original case that Anna's gonna go back to so that Trump can follow the court's orders. And I'm sure that Justice Roberts had that in mind when he did this.
Yes.
Because the number one thing he's trying to preserve is the court's authority, which is a good thing that he's doing that.
Right, so Chief Justice John Roberts agreed to a request from President Trump to give both sides more time, essentially, to make their arguments. Okay, so again, as it relates to Kilmar Abrego Garcia, this is a temporary decision, right? This isn't a permanent decision in regard to what Trump can and can't do when it comes to specific migrants who were deported, in this case, mistakenly. And that's not based on my interpretation. That's based on the lawyers representing the Trump administration in this particular case. Now, he ordered lawyers in the case to respond by 5 p.m. Tuesday. The Justice Department told the Supreme Court that the lower court's order to return the man was unprecedented and could not be done because the man that they admit they mistakenly deported to El Salvador, okay, to an absolute hellhole, SCOTUS, that facility to detain terrorists and gang members, they're like, well, he's in El Salvadorian custody now, so we can't get him back. Solicitor General John Sawyer told the Supreme Court in his filing on Monday, even amidst a deluge of unlawful injunctions, this order is remarkable. The Constitution charges the president, not federal district courts, with the conduct of foreign diplomacy and protecting the nation against foreign terrorists, including by effectuating their removal. While the United States concedes that removal to El Salvador was an administrative error that does not license district courts to seize control over foreign relations, treat the executive branch as a subordinate diplomat, and demand that the United States let a member of a foreign terrorist organization into America tonight. Okay, the guy that we're talking about here is not a foreign terrorist. The guy that we're talking about right now is someone who was in the country legally, and by the Trump administration's own admission, was mistakenly deported to another country without any due process.
So, but I want you to understand what they're saying. They're saying, yeah, we know we made a mistake and sent the wrong guy to that torture prison, but we refuse to get him out.
And we don't want to deal with the courts. We don't think the courts should have a say, essentially.
Yeah, and by the way, we can't get him out even if we wanted to, because that's the business of El Salvador.
No, it's not.
No, wait, you're telling me you sent people to that hellhole, and including wrong people, innocent people, and you think you have no way of getting them out if you made a mistake? What if you sent an American citizen? What if you sent someone like that? And so this idea that they don't have any control over El Salvador and they can't get people back is nothing but a giant and obvious lie. Of course they can get them back. The fact that they're saying we know he's innocent but we don't want him back and we want him tortured in that prison is unbelievable. And then finally to say, oh, the courts have no role in telling us or the executive branch what to do. No, that's literally the job of the courts. They said, well, we declared him a foreign terrorist. Well, how do we know he's a foreign terrorist? That's what the courts are supposed to decide, whether he's a terrorist or not. Otherwise, you could just pick up any American citizen, send him to a dungeon in El Salvador and go, well, we decided he was a foreign terrorist and we don't care.
Even under oath, the Department of Justice has been unable to give a clear answer as to why they are unable to return Garcia to the United States. Pressed by US District Judge Paula Zinnis about why the US couldn't bring him back, DOJ lawyer Arez Ruveni says this: the first thing I did when I got this case on my desk is ask my clients the same question. Okay.
Yeah, and here's my question. How can he be innocent and a foreign terrorist at the same time? They make the most asinine, ridiculous comments in court. And their own lawyer, we covered it at the end of last week, that same guy that Anna just quoted. When the judge asked him, under what authority are you doing this? He said, honestly, I don't know, I'm asking the same questions. They go in totally unprepared, don't care about American laws and the American Constitution at all. And now they're sending innocent people and saying we'll never get them back, even if we think they're innocent.
And Trump wants to send Americans to that facility in El Salvador.
Yeah,
literally.
He said it.
Yep.
And so if you think, oh, it's hyperbolic to say that they would do this to Americans. No, Trump literally said he would like to do it to Americans. And if he sends one of you to a dungeon, to a different country, and guess what he'll say? He's innocent, but a foreign terrorist, and there's no way we can get him back.
All right, that does it for today's show, the main show at least. But we've got a lot more to get to that we unfortunately didn't get to in the main show. So please check out our members only bonus episode, tyt.com/join to become a member. And if you're already a member, that's awesome. We'll see you in just a few.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.